Welcome. I'm Catherine Eyring, your health and empowerment coach. And tonight I have Lieutenant Heath Tester, retired lieutenant, SWAT team veteran, tactical commander of the multi-jurisdictional team of Lorain County. Heath will talk to us about tactical breathing for surviving threatening encounters. How does your health help you when you're up against a gun? He's going to teach us what we can do. Thank you for joining us. So, yeah, we're all about being healthy here, but we can live a total healthy lifestyle and be snuffed out in a minute if we're not safe, right? Let's talk about first your background, what you do.
I started off police, law enforcement, in 1993. I went through the police academy in Akron, and then I went from there to Put-in-Bay for 2 years. And then I left Put-in-Bay to the sheriff's office here in Lorain County, did almost 27 years there. And then I retired. And, my time there at the sheriff's office, I went on to the tactical SWAT team in 2000. In 2005, I became a team leader for that. 2012, I became the tactical commander for the SWAT team and did that until 2020. Left the SWAT team in 2020 and retired at the end of 2021. Then I went to work for an Ohio organized crime task force. Still working, and who knows when I'll stop.
And in fact, this is why Heath is in his car, because he was working and he had expected to be home 2 hours ago, but he couldn't make it. He stopped the car and is sitting in his car for us. So thank you. I know you're going to talk to us about situations that, are in the news all the time right now. People are talking about public safety, what happens like in a mall, in a place of worship, schools, these things that are happening.
Just to kind of set it up, Columbine, everybody kind of uses that as their reference point to these school shootings. So that was 1999. Law enforcement tactics back then were wait for backup, call them out. It took them 45 minutes to get inside there, and those guys were in there shooting. So law enforcement had to change our tactics on what we did. We developed a response to that, an active shooter response, where we were waiting for 4 guys before we went in. Once we got 4, then we were going in. From 2000 to probably 2008, 2009, we were only stopping less than 2%. They either were committing suicide, fleeing on foot, citizens were catching them. So law enforcement was not. So we developed solo engagement. Around 2014, we started getting solo engagement, saying we're better. We got better weapons. We got better tactics. You get there by yourself, start going in. From 14 to about 2020, law enforcement was stopping 65% of them because we were going in. We see them still just on the news where they waited and waited and waited. That I don't understand what happened. I wasn't there, but then the other day you just seen what happened down there in Nashville. Those guys were rock stars. They went right in and within 2 minutes, I think they had that guy down or the girl down. But anyways, I think that, as law enforcement, we continue to develop to beat this. But that's where Jim and I got started. My partner in these talks is right after Columbine. We really just started coming up and talking to the schools, churches, everybody. And our presentation is not about surviving that specific encounter. It's about everything, everyday life. We've had so many great stories of people in our audience telling us about situations that they lived through. And then afterwards, they're like, my God, if I'd have just known that, it would have helped us out. And that's the power of everything that we've seen. We've learned so much from doing these presentations as much as we've taught, by hearing people's experiences and how they've gotten through it. It's been amazing for us. But so that's basically our whole philosophy on this, and our talk is how to control your brain through your breathing. And that's where we train law enforcement, yearly on how to do this, on how to train your mind to start breathing correctly, which in turn lowers the heart rate, which in turn you keep your dexterity in your fingers. You're able to shoot, you're able to communicate, you're able to talk. And that's, how we've developed this.
I think everyone can relate to having times where something happened and adrenaline is going and you're shaking so bad you can't control your hands.
I seen one not too long ago. Remember the Texas church shooting?
Mm-hmm.
It was like a year and a half, 2 years ago. There was an interview on TV, and the lady said, the guy came in, he was shooting. I got down on my hands and knees and I covered up my head and I prepared to die. And it's like, that should never be in your program. That should never be something we download into the program, into your brain, as to that's your plan. You should look at every situation, walking into the gymnasium for your kids' basketball game, to a movie theater. Just do a quick assessment. Where's the exits at? Where are they at? Where's the fire extinguisher? Just take 5 seconds and just look at where you're at. Because when those gunfire, it's already proven, the presence of gunfire will drive the heart from a resting heartbeat to 200 beats a minute, that fast. The minute the body and mind hear a gunshot, your heart will go to 200 beats a minute. After 145 to 150, you're not using your fingers. You can't see colors correctly. Everything is so just disorienting. So if you haven't looked at it and downloaded the program into your brain, when that presence of gunfire goes off, you aren't going to battle through it. You hear so many people say, well, when the time comes, I'm going to do it. You ain't going to have a plan. Just as simple as your cell phone at night, laying it on the nightstand, knowing where the fire extinguishers are. In the middle of the night, the fire alarm, the smoke alarm goes off. You're disoriented. You wake up, you smell smoke. You got your kid's bedroom down at the end of the hallway. If you don't have programmed into your head telling, your daughter or your son, listen, get down, put something under the door, go out the window. If you guys haven't walked through a battle plan on that day when that alarm's going off and all of a sudden you got the sensation of smoke, you're not going to function well in that. And then you're going to get up and go, where did I put that cell phone? Oh, I might have left it downstairs. I mean, you should know every night where that stuff is, because when your heart hits that spiked level, you're going into that center brain, the dog brain, I call it. That's your fight or flight mode, and you can't think. And the tactical breathing drives the heart down from 200, whatever, down into that optimum fighting level of 145, 140. And you start thinking again, you start doing clearly. I can give you story after story of where we've seen people's hearts spike and they just melted away. So tactical breathing, they developed this in the military. It's you inhale 4 seconds, continuous 4 seconds, inhale. Then you're going to hold for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds, and then rest for 4 seconds, and you do it again. If you do that 3 times, that's going to drive that heart rate down. Lay in bed at night right before you go to bed and do it. You're going to get all tingly and like, whoa, if you're not used to it, you get a little dizzy and lightheaded. But if you program yourself, when we get officers out at the range and we're shooting, and you just start teaching them that when they're hearing that gunfire, to start that breathing system into their head, on game day, they're automatically going to go into that mode of breathing like that. And it's going to keep that heart rate down. And that's how simple this is. Just that simple technique. What do you see Michael Jordan get on the foul line, right? In the playoffs, what's he do? Spins the ball, grabs it, drives that heart down, shoots his shot. Watch a major league pitcher. He's got two strikes, 3 balls, and he's ready to make that next pitch. Watch what he does. He starts that breathing cycle to drive that heart down, because he's got to take that tiny little ball and throw it over a 13-inch plate, 100 miles an hour. They got to be in optimum levels like that. Watch an NFL quarterback, and they're in the shotgun. They got these 11 guys ready to come across there and just crush them. What do? You watch them. They've taken those breaths to get that heart down because they need to be able to see clearly. And that's exactly what this is. And it's just the simple stuff of just training that brain and downloading a program, and you'll rock star through this stuff. Jim and I started in 2003, and we're doing upwards of 20 to 30 talks a year, all the way up until COVID. And then we took COVID off, and then we just started back doing it again. So yeah, this is, and it's just, it's so good when you see it work and you see people that have survived encounters, and then they come back and talk and tell you about it. It's like, okay, this is rewarding. It's working. We got to stay with the course. You got to get your kids in that mode. You got to talk to your kids, whether they're 8 years old, 5 years old, or 20 years old. Either you're sending your kid off to college, you know what I mean? And they're going to have to walk at night and here and there. If you don't have that conversation, they don't ever have a reference point to go back to and get through that. And if you can just talk to them about that and how to breathe, they're going to be so much farther ahead than everybody. When officers are screwing up, and I don't mean screwing up, when we put them through stress inoculations and they're not hitting their target, they're in the wrong area and stuff like that, it goes back to two things. They're not breathing, and they've just lost all dexterity in their hands. When we get them communicating and talking loud and doing the breathing, all of a sudden they start hitting the targets. Their shots are crisp. They're accounting for everything that was happening. When they can't tell us what happened and they're shooting the wrong targets, they're not breathing. And as soon as we get them talking, they start breathing. If you watch that Nashville thing, those guys, those cops, you hear their heart, you hear them breathing like that. That's how powerful that heart is, but they're talking. And by them guys talking, that's helping lower that down. And that's why when you see the muzzle flash going off on the wall, and those guys just rounded the corner and they shot the assailant, and down he goes. That's all happening because they're talking and they're lowering that heart rate. Those guys did so good. And that's what we have to train to. And that's in every scenario. You have to practice that breathing and having a program.
So can you do a little training with us right now? Lead us through, or is it just that simple?
I think the way you described it's perfect. That box drill, it's 4 seconds in, hold 4 seconds, exhale 4 seconds and shove it out and hold it 4 seconds and do it again 3 cycles. If you just practice that 3 cycles, you're going to feel your body start tingling, because you're going to drop that heart rate pretty low. And if we're sitting here at 50 to 60, 70 beats a minute and you drop it, 10%, that'll make you dizzy. But if it's at 200 and you drop it 10%, then it's not going to feel as crazy. But yeah, that's the biggest thing and I think that you hit it on the head with the yoga drills. That's exactly what it is.
Well, I know in yoga, that's a big part of it, that if you control your breath then will control your mind. And
Yep.
so this is why in yoga, we do a lot of different breath work, because it's all about focusing on that so that we have more mental, emotional control.
When you're in your fight mode, your body automatically pulls all the blood out of your extremities and shoves it into your core. Mm-hmm. That's where you lose your dexterity. You hear people like, I couldn't get the key in the ignition. I couldn't get it in there. That's why, because, or, they're trying to get in the house and somebody's chasing them and they're trying to get that little key in there. It's like, it's never going to happen, because your fingers, you just can't feel them. You know what I mean? You can't get that stuff to work. But by doing that breathing exercise, that pushes that blood out, it gets the oxygen back inside that blood. And all of a sudden you've got your fingers, you can start feeling again. You can start placing shots, get the key. It's just amazing.
And I'll bet everybody has an experience where they can think, yes, I remember when I was panicking, I was out of my mind. And then it might even be something we panicked about that we can laugh about later because it wasn't worthy of panicking, but something set us off. So let me pause right there and say thank you to you because this is just wonderful information. And then I'm going to open for discussion.